Thank you for joining us here for the 2018 Memorial Day ceremony here in the wonderful city of Port Jervis, New York. What a nice crowd we got here today. I think we caught a break with the weather. Thank you, dear Lord. Again, how nice to see all of you here. I am humbled and I am honored by the presence of all of you here this morning to honor the deceased veterans who have fought and died for this great country of ours. I'm going to ask Chaplain Steve Cronemus from the Rosage Fleming VFW Post 116, 161 to come up and do the invocation. Chaplain.
Let us bow our heads. O sovereign ruler of the universe, who art the Lord of hosts and God of peace, without thee our efforts are in vain. Continue thy blessings upon us and our families, we pray thee, and guide us during our deliberations. We beseech thee, O God, to bless the dependents of our departed comrades and to comfort all who gave their loved ones to our nation's cause. Bless and strengthen the sick and the needy and the afflicted. Bless, we ask thee, the widows and children in our national home, and to help us fulfill our duty towards them. Continue thy favor upon our order, and help us to practice the spirit of true comradeship, both in our councils and with the world at large. Enable us to better the community in which we live through our devotion to duty as citizens. We now have a moment of silent prayer for our departed comrades and for those missing in action and those held as prisoners of war. These and all other necessary blessings we ask of thee, mighty ruler of the universe. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain. Next, I'm going to call up the commander of VFW Post number 161, Carmine DeFino, to do the Pledge of Allegiance. And as he's coming up here, I want to share with you that he's been an officer down at VFW Post 161 for many, many years. He's been the commander for the last 4, and he has finally decided to get out and allow somebody else to move up in his place. I don't know how this guy is going to be able to fill this guy's shoes because he's done so much for us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh my good days. Order up. States and what?
Detail, present, form. Thank you, Port Jervis High School, for that beautiful rendition. I want to read this article to you. America's War Dead, 1775 to 2018. a memorial listing by the numbers. Americans have lost their lives in some 83 wars and assorted military actions in the past 243 years. Most of the casualties occurred in a dozen or so major wars, but that does not lessen the sacrifice of those killed in the numerous and mostly forgotten minor expeditions in the far-flung corners of the globe. Whenever any American uniform is killed by hostile enemy action, it is meaningful, and that loss must be remembered and forever recognized. I want to also share with you some statistics that I recently received. It's about the Vietnam War. I found it very humbling. Usually we don't read too much in statistics from World War I, World War II, but this caught my eye and I want to share this with you. For most Americans who read this, they will only see the numbers that the Vietnam War created. To those of us who have survived the war, and to the families of those who did not, we see the faces, we feel the pain that these numbers have created. We are, until we too pass away, haunted by these numbers because they were our friends, fathers, husbands, wives, sons, and daughters. There are no noble wars, just noble warriors. And amen to that. I'm just going to read some statistics here. I will share with you that when you went to Vietnam, usually your tour of duty was 12 months. You had to do a minimum of 1 year. Keep that in mind. On the wall, the Vietnam Memorial Wall in Washington, there are 3 sets of fathers and sons on that wall. The largest age group, 33,103, were 18 years old. These on the wall are those that were killed in action in Vietnam. 12 soldiers on the wall were 17 years old. 5 soldiers on the wall were 16 years old. 1 soldier, PFC, Private First Class, Danny Bullock, was 15 years old. Pretty sad, isn't it? 990 soldiers were killed on the first day that they arrived in Vietnam. Now, let's get back to you have to do 1 year tour of duty, and when you got close to the end of your tour of duty for 1 year, the commanders of the different units tried their best to protect their members and keep them in the background so that you become short and your time in Vietnam is now limited. 1,448 soldiers were killed on the last day in Vietnam. 31 sets of brothers are on the wall. 31 sets of parents lost 2 of their sons. And 8 women are on the wall nursing the wounded. At this time, we pause to remember and honor those veterans from the tri-state area who served in the armed forces and are no longer with us today. You know, recently, approximately a month ago, we had a VFW brother, Jim McAndrew, who was a Korean War veteran, and more recently, in the last few days, we lost one of our very close, dear friends, Richard Savannah, from our post, who was a Vietnam War veteran. So please keep the Savannah family and the McAndrew family in your prayers. We wish to honor and remember them by placing the wreaths that we have in front of me at the 7 monuments here in Orange Square Veterans Memorial Park. Do we have someone here from the Gold Star Mothers to do the American Revolution? I'm not sure. If we do, would somebody from the Gold Star Mothers please come forward? For the Civil War Monument, that is in the center of the square here, Orange Square, Jack Pendergast and Angelo Romano, would you please come up and place a wreath at the base of the Civil War Monument? The Korean War Monument, could I have Carmine, Loie O'Connell, and Tim Shear come forward and present the memorial wreath to the Korean War Monument. Representing the Vietnam War Monument, Floyd Babcock and Roger Fuller. Disabled American Veterans Monument, Jim Knight and Stan Siegel, please. The War Against Terrorism Monument, Ed Pavlich. And guys, I need someone to fill in. Bill, can you come up and fill in for that position, please? And the World War II monument that's directly behind me, I'm going to ask Vince Livingston and Philip Cooperman to come up and present that memorial wreath, and his son Howard will help Phil. Following these presentations, we will now have taps by Stacy Jurgel and Al Gessner. Detail, Hedge, Hunt. Present, Harm. Order, Harm. Thank you, Al. Thank you, Stacy. I notice we have a few World War II veterans sitting here down in front of the audience here. I recognize and was introduced to Philip Cooperman, who in a few days will be 95 years young. He came up from Florida to join us. And Mr. Cooperman, thank you so much for coming as far as you did. If we had a trophy for the furthest distance traveled, I'd make sure you get it. But thank you so much for joining us today at the memorial service. How many World War II veterans do we have in the audience? Mr. March? Several. Everybody take notice of the World War II veterans. Stick them up, guys. Put your hands up. I'm going to take 2 minutes. For those of you that are close to these World War II veterans, I want you to walk up, shake their hand, and say thank you for your service. And when you get to Mr. Cooperman here, make sure you say happy birthday as well. Just 2 minutes, guys, all right?
Thanks for your service. Glad to see you today. Thank you. Glad to see you today.
Thank you for your Thank you for your service.
Great. Thank you.
Your Sergeant?
Thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for attending today. Thank you for your service.
Who's squeezing over here? This is Cameron. Which one is the birthday boy? Oh, but I think we got Thank you, man. It's his birthday. Happy birthday, too. You're only, oh, well. Cameron. Okay. Well, happy birthday, Cameron. Oh, nice to meet you. Look at your bed.
I haven't seen you.
Oh, no. The honor flight, I got you baby honor flight. I'll make sure I don't touch the camera or anything over here.
Yeah, that's awesome. I work at Seymour in the Air Force myself, so I've done the honor flight with you guys before, so I'm glad to see that you did it. I'm really glad to see. Oh, good, I'm glad. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
This is the oldest women's Army Corps of Germany. I'm sure it's the first time in my life I've How you doing? Oh, I know that, bud. You don't have to tell me. Yeah, you sure was. Nice to see you. Nice to see you.
sentiment is also great. You know what I mean? He was so cute when I said happy birthday.
Thank you, Broome Street Band, for that Armed Forces medley. And the Broome Street Band is under the direction of Jason Census. Thank you, Jason, and thank you, Broome Street Band. Okay, I'm going to just take a moment, and we're going to go to what I refer to as commercial break. We need to recognize someone like ShopRite. When someone does so much for our veterans, we need to take a minute, go to commercial break, and recognize these people that do so much for the veterans. In the first few months of the year, ShopRite has donated over $300,000 to the veterans. I'll read this to you. The funds were raised at checkout stands in ShopRite stores. Now that includes Warwick, Montague, Middletown, got Middletown, and the rest of the ShopRite stores here. The funds were raised, and they really have a competition. ShopRite will come into our post. They will bring the food. They will bring help from the stores, their employees. They will cook the meal. They will serve the meal. They will clean up behind after the meal, and the money goes to the veterans in some venue. And I'll read this really quickly. The funds were raised at checkout stands in ShopRite stores. Since the program began in 2009, more than $3.9 million has been raised and divided among veterans groups and events, including the Hudson Valley Honor Flight and the Committee for the Families of War Veterans, including the food bank and everything in Orange County. How much more can we ask of an organization? Thank you, ShopRite. I'm going to call, our mayor is not able to be with us today. Unfortunately, his older brother passed on recently. He is with his family, his brother's family in New Jersey. So standing in for Kelly Decker, our mayor today, will be Stan Siegel. Stan? And Stan is an Army veteran, so I thought he was a perfect choice to fill in for Kelly.
Thank you. Good morning. What a beautiful crowd. This is unbelievable. And I'm not going to say anything about the weather, because as soon as I do, it'll start to pour. Welcome to all that are here today to honor those who served and gave their lives to our country. Whether they came from our city, the tri-state area, the county, our state, they're all our heroes. I'm honored to was asked to speak today on behalf of the mayor, and I thank my dear friend Henry Dunn for allowing me 4.5 minutes to do that. He went on for 20. As a brief history, in May 1868, General John A. Logan, the Commander-in-Chief of the Grand Army of the Republic, issued a decree that on May 30th, it should become a national day of commemoration for the more than 620,000 soldiers killed in the then-ended Civil War. On Decoration Day, as General Logan named it, Americans should lay flowers and decorate the graves of the war dead, whose bodies now lie in almost every city, village, hamlet, churchyard in the land. Decoration Day was changed after the start of World War I to include those killed in all wars. In 1968, the observance date was changed to the last Monday in May. And in 1971, the name was changed from Decoration Day to Memorial Day. Memorial Day is a federal holiday in the United States for remembering the people who died while serving our nation's armed forces. Fort Jervis is a small city that has always honored and respected the great sacrifices of American military men and women. Many of the veterans who are here today have not only served our nation, often in times in the toughest of situations, but also but also do what was called for commemorating Memorial Day. They placed flags on graves of our veterans who are no longer able to be with us in person. Thank you to all that took the time to visit and place the flags on their veterans' graves once again this year. And to all who have taken time to be here today to help us, as always, remember and honor those who made the ultimate sacrifice for our nation. As we stand here today in historic Orange Square, feelings of gratitude and respect should come naturally and deeply to all of us and anyone who visits this land at any time. The monuments placed here in the park represent the great sacrifices made in all the wars. The oldest and tallest, in honor of the soldiers of the Civil War, was dedicated in July of 1886. A Civil War cannon and monuments placed to honor those who gave their lives in World War I and II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and the War on Terrorism have also been dedicated here. Look around at all that are here today in Veterans Park. Thank the veterans who are with us today, as we did with the World War II veterans, for all they gave, and remember those who made the ultimate sacrifice on countless battlefields over the years for their brave and unselfish service. Listen to the patriotic songs as we honor our fallen. Talk to veterans that still do so much for our community, many who carry the pain of lost comrades. And never, ever forget the tremendous sacrifices made by the military and their families for all of us. Also, take a moment after the ceremony, if you would, or any time, to visit the monuments located around the park. They have been placed in honor of our local heroes who gave their lives for our country. God bless each one of you, and God bless America.
Thank you, Stan. I would like to take the next few moments and introduce some of our guests here today. We have with us Orange County Legislator Tom Fagione, who we can always count on to be in our Veterans Day Parade. He's been driving that Vietnam-era Jeep for years and years and years. Tom, thank you so much for attending here today. We appreciate it. We have with us Dave Hoogler, Orange County District Attorney, who is every day out there fighting crime and putting the bad guys in jail to keep our streets just a little bit safer. Dave, thank you for attending. Our close friend and our close ally, Town of Deer Park Supervisor Gary Spears. Thank you, Gary, for being here as well. And the Port Jervis Common Council members, we appreciate all of you for showing up. I'm not sure to what extent you're here, but thank you so much for joining us. And also, we can't forget our judge, City Court Judge James Hendry. Thank you, Judge, for being here today to join us. Last but not least, Carl Brabenick, our assemblyman, recently contacted him. We were trying to get an AED. We were looking for financial help. They run an AEDs for about $1,800, so we contacted Carl and we asked for suggestions where we could maybe find some monies to do that. He was wonderful help to us, gave us several different avenues to pursue. So, Carl, thank you so much for helping us out. We veterans appreciate you coming and being here with us today as well. Am I forgetting anybody? Gary, Dave, who am I forgetting? All right. Next, we're going to spend a couple minutes talking about local veterans, and I'm going to ask the captain of the naval ship, Roger Fuller, to come up here, and he wants to share some information about some military members and their military time.
I won't tell you what he just whispered to me. I think it was a threat, I'm not sure. Thank you to all present of being here. Remember our fallen deceased veterans from our area. On behalf of the VFW Tri-State Naval Ship 7241, I would like to commemorate two late members, our posts, who served their country proudly when it needed those most. This is only a fraction of what the posts are losing every year. Harry W. Opelt Jr. was born in Maybrook, New York, August 31st, 1925. Son of the late Harry W. Opelt Sr. and Leona Manderville, Opel. When the United States enlisted in the U.S. Navy during World War II, he served on the USS Savannah, CL-42, in the North Atlantic. After being honorably discharged in 1945, he later joined the Air Force Reserves, where he served honorably for a decade. Here he worked in the textiles industry for many years. In his spare time, he was an avid sportsman, loved traveling to Monticello Raceway, and especially loved Tuesday nights at the Naval Ship. He was a life member of the Tri-State Naval Ship, as well as a member of the USS Savannah Shipmates and Survivors Association. Harry joined the Eternal Fleet on July 14, 2015 in Warwick, New York. Austin H. Delaney was born April 1st, 2000. He wasn't born in 2017. In Port Jervis, son of the late Austin Delaney and Edna Hayes Delaney. I think that was a setup. Austin served in the U.S. Navy for 20 years as a Navy helicopter crew member from 1944 to 1964. After his retirement from the Navy, he continued to work as a Port Jervis school bus driver and eventually full-time for the New York State Division of Youth at the Otisville State Correctional Facility. Austin was a member of the VFW Rosa Fleming Post 161 and later became a charter member of the VFW Tri-State Naval Ship 7241 in 1946. He was also a member of the U.S. Naval Helicopter Veterans Association and well as a member of the American Legion and the Elks. Austin joined the Eternal Fleet on October 20th, 2017 in Oxford, New York. As I said, this is just a fraction of what the VFWs just in this area are losing every year. So please keep everybody in your prayers. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Captain Fuller. Next, I want to call up Kate and Amelia Riccardi. They are the granddaughters of Michael Solitro, who is a Port Jervis resident, and I would ask both of them to come forward, and they will speak about their grandfather.
Good morning. First, I'd like to say thank you to all of the veterans and the active military servicemen and women for all of your service to our country. Michael enlisted in the Marine Corps October 18, 1945, to serve 3 years as a rifle expert. He was sent to Parris Island, North Carolina, and then on to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, where he completed his Marine basic training. In 1946, he landed in Chakou, China, where he was assigned to C Company, 1st Battalion, 5th Marines in Shinho, China. In 1947, Michael saw combat action in the Battle of Shinho, in which the Marines suffered numerous casualties and wounded warriors. Michael continued in combat throughout the Pacific Theater of Operations. Memorials for these China Marines are at Marine bases in Quantico, Virginia, and Camp Pendleton, California. He was issued Honorable Service Lapel Pin, Good Conduct Medal Period, World War II Victory Medal, China Service Medal, and the Occupation Service Medal. After his honorable discharge on May 18, 1948, Michael remained a true Marine in principle and character until his passing in 2017. Michael was selected to fly on the 5th mission of the Hudson Valley Honor Flight on Saturday, September 27, 2014, with his dear friend Jim Cullinan as his guardian. Our thanks for your service to our country and your devotion to our family. We salute you, Private First Class Michael G. Solitro, United States Marine Corps.
Thank you, ladies. Your grandfather is very proud of you for doing this for him. Next, I'm going to speak about a local resident, Edward March Rutan, a local contractor, World War II veteran. Ed was born February 10th, 1922, and died June 9th, 1998. As all men of Ed Rutan's generation, World War II made a significant change in his life. Although significant, he weathered and he returned. He never saw his contribution to be more than a defeat of the Axis powers. It was simple for them. In his mind, family and his community were the utmost importance. His favorite songs were I'll Be Home for Christmas and The Saints Go Marching In. His idea of community was the founding of the Pop Warner Football League, belonging to the Never Sink Engine Company, and belonging to the Masonic Lodge. His family and community came first and foremost. He was all about the success of his children, his friends, and his community. He had coffee at Homer's, he ate hot dogs at Texas Lunch, and he got his gas from Guy's gas station. And in that family, they didn't and were not allowed to eat any rice. After graduation from Port Jervis High School, Ed joined the U.S. Army and reported to Goshen, New York, and then was transported via Fort Dix to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. He was assigned to the 26th Division Massachusetts National Guard, known as the Yankee Division, or YD. During his training at Fort Bragg, his platoon was struck by lightning, and he was assigned to remove several dead soldiers' bodies. Thus, his terrible fear of lightning and the appearance of several lightning rods on his house are there today. After basic training at Fort Bragg, he was further trained as a mechanic and truck driver. He was shipped to Fort Dix, New Jersey, at which time he encountered a Major Wright. His girlfriend and later his wife, Dorothy Fellows Rutan, had given him an ID bracelet with his name, blood type, and serial number, at which time he felt it necessary to discard his dog tags since he felt they would be too noisy. Ed then boarded a troop transport ship and landed in Normandy, D+7, which is 7 days after the Normandy invasion. Upon his arrival, Major Wright was looking for a driver for his Jeep. According to Ed, he didn't know anyone else's name other than the no noise problem soldier, so Ed got the job. Major Wright acted as a liaison officer, and they would carry messages from one group to another, as well as operate between the American forces and the retreating Germans. His favorite jobs, and this is a new one to me, I didn't realize we did this, his favorite jobs were to blow up steeples to prevent snipers from having a perch to shoot from, and to burn money found in the bank vaults as they went along. I don't know about you, but I'm not burning any money I found. I might have to ship that home. This work also landed him in the Battle of the Bulge. They were in a small village southwest of Bastogne, and the Germans counterattacked, and Ed was trapped and forced to hide in the cellar of a building for 2 days while the Germans occupied the floors above. Without heat, he suffered frostbite on both hands and feet. Lucky for him, the Germans were driven back, and he was taken to a field hospital, at which time he met a certain Colonel Dr. Robert McCullough, who was about to amputate one of his feet. Ed pleaded and begged with the doctor, telling him that he was a great football player here locally and he needed actually both of his feet. The doctor acquiesced, and Ed kept both of his feet. Several years later, Ed, who was a consistent attendee at the Dutch Reformed Church, met a man at the door whom he recognized as Colonel McCullough, who had saved his foot. Now, I know some of you guys down front here, Dr. Robert McCullough, his office was right here with that burning that built down for years. He and his wife, Dr. Johnny McCullough. How interesting that he met this colonel who saved his feet, and later they met here in the city of Port Jervis at the Deer Park Reformed Church. It's a small world. Upon his excessive thanks, Colonel McCullough said in his southern drawl, "Ye gods, my past comes back to haunt me." Ed and he became great friends until the very end, when Ed was asked by Dr. Bob to walk the last mile with him. I have found the men who have been to war tend to talk about more humorous events. Ed was no exception. He was very proud of his role in recabling and the restoration of the aerial cable car system in Strasbourg, Austria. Being part of the Third Army, he also had great admiration for General George Patton and his pearl-handled revolvers. Thank you, Ed Routine, for your service.
Can I say a word?